Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm doing some more Bible journaling, but I'm going to show you a new coloring medium that I tried out in my Bible and worked out really well for me. I'm going to be using the Lighthouse stamp set from Joy Claire Stamps in my video today. I'm using the lighthouse and the boat from this set. Here's a closer look if you have trouble with that visual. It's a little hard to see in the video, but here's a look at the entire stamp set. This has some great verses already scripted out for you in it, but I'm actually going to be journaling today in John chapter 1 verses 4 through 9 and 10, I believe. But I am starting off by doing my stamping. I'm going to be doing some hand doodling. I want to remind everyone I am not an artist by any means. So when I say hand doodling, I mean like lines, and that's all I'm capable of. So I'm starting off with the lighthouse. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. That's what I like to use whenever I color with my colored pencils, and I'm going to be blending out with some OMS. Use whatever you like to use whenever you're using that coloring medium. Just make sure it plays well in your Bible and you're good to go. Now, I tested this stamp out because it is brand new. I tested it out on some scrap paper before I brought it over to my Bible. And then I stamp it down and I hold it. I make sure I give this a really good press. If you're new to Bible journaling, even on your first page, you're going to realize you only get one chance to stamp this. I mean, you can look through, line up clear stamps and all that great stuff. I'm never really good at getting an exact match, so I like to make sure I get a good impression the first time. Joy Claire stamps are high quality stamps. They are made in the United States, but I like to give it that extra pressure and a little bit of time for the ink to kind of soak into the paper and not smear around on me before I remove it. Now I went ahead and stamped the lighthouse on the right hand side up in like the top right hand corner. I'm going to stamp a few of those little light rays coming off from the left and the right. And then on the left page, this is going to be a two-page completely colored spread. I stamped the little boat in the bottom left. Now that's right in the center. And I kind of planned this out beforehand. Because this is going to be such a huge scene, essentially, I wanted to make sure I had a good idea where everything needed to end up going because I wanted to do my stamping first. This does not require any masking, so that is the nice part of this, but you are going to do a little bit of hand doodling. Now, I needed something that was going to play well with my colored pencils and my OMS, so I got out my alcohol marker. It had kind of the same size tip on it that match the lines of the stamp set. This bleeds through like crazy. I'm just going to warn you now. It bleeds through like just craziness. So make sure you have a couple pieces of paper behind wherever you're writing on. I didn't hear, and you'll be able to see it transferred a little bit. That's okay. Just do as I say and not as I do. Now I am adding some lines here and there to kind of fill in the rest of the scene. So I'm going for the water's edge right now, and then I'll come in and add a little bit of lines behind there. These are not straight, they're squiggly, they're not even full lines. I'm skipping here and there as well to go along with the kind of aesthetic of the stamp set. That is why I love stamp sets that have this kind of more authentic, not exactly perfect lines with their drawings, because then I can come in and do things like this. Now I'm adding in mountains, and I am just drawing lines here and there. I'm skipping over any words. I don't want to cover up any words on this page. I have a thing about that. If you don't mind it, you can always make these full lines, but I am coming in and adding just triangles without a bottom line, essentially, and connecting them to those horizon lines that I made just a moment ago. And that's going to be it, except I want to add a little bit of motion to the water or a little bit of waves. So I'm just going to take my marker and add squiggly lines here and there down in the bottom section. And that's going to be it. It really is that simple. I added a few right next to the boat to make it look like it was kind of rocking in the water. And other than that, the rest is going to be all color. But I promise it looks a little bit iffy right now, but I promise once I get color on it, it'll be beautiful. So I am using these Leisure Arts colored pencils. I really like these. I'm going to have, or I probably already do have a review. I don't know if I've gotten it posted yet, but I will if I haven't already. And I really like these. They go on pretty much like butter in my Bible journal. And not only that, I like that there's not as many of them. So I can travel a lot better with them, and just carry them with me a lot better. Plus, I get a little overwhelmed when I have too many choices. I don't know if you're like me or not, but even like going out to eat and having all these choices, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't decide. There's too many choices. So this really limits my color palette down, and that helps me out a lot. So for the water, I'm going with blue. And all I am doing is starting off with my very darkest blue color. And I am quickly, and you can, I set this up a little bit because otherwise this video would be like 2 hours long. But I am starting with that dark blue and I am quickly scribbling in some color. I've got my OMS, I keep mine in a little glass jar, and I have my blending stump. I am going to quickly blend this out. Now, the great thing about using OMS, especially on very large pieces like this, is whenever you use it, it takes away that waxiness that wax colored pencils leave behind, and you don't end up getting that wax bloom, which is awesome. You can keep adding more color and more color and more color and more color on top. Just blend it out, and it's like a new blank page you can color on top of. As I go in, I am coming in with a medium shade of blue. I added more of that, and I came in with a little bit darker on the top. This is going to help blend it together. Now, the great thing about OMS is even when you continue blending where there is no color, it drags that color down. So you're going to get lighter shades. Even if I'll end up using 3 colors, I can get like 6 different shades from 3 colored pencils. That's why I love using this. Takes away those pencil lines. It still leaves some texture, so it's not completely smooth, but I just love it so much. Now, to get a lot of color on the page at one time, I am turning my pencil on its side. That's how well the OMS blends this out on the Bible pages. I don't even have to worry about the way I color with these. I can turn that thing on its side, use the larger part of the lead to really get a lot of color. That's going to save me a ton of time in large spaces like this. Now I continue to blend out until I'm happy with that bottom section, and then I'm going to move up and along more parts of the water. I will speed this up just a little bit more, but I wanted to show you how well this worked on the Bible pages. I will turn this over and show you the back. It didn't really bleed through. You are going to get a little bleed through while the OMS is wet, but it evaporates essentially and dries off, and you're not going to see any of that. So it's going to bring the pages from the back, almost on the back side, forward a little bit. But once it dries, that all goes away. It all goes back to normal, and it looks really amazing. I think the smoothness of the Bible pages and that little bit of slick really work to your benefit whenever you're coloring this with this medium. You can see it has dried a little bit on the bottom there. There was no bleed through. You can go back and pause it and check if you want. But um, next up, I came in on the top layers of this. I wanted to work on that bottom section and show you that a little bit slower, but now I'm really speeding things up. And I came in with my darker color, then my medium shade, and then my lightest shades on its side to really get in there and really get a lot of color down at once. And then I am quickly blending this all out, bringing the color down. I don't want to bring it up at all. I want to bring it down towards where those waves are going to meet. That's just going to give me some more depth and definition. I can come back in and keep layering up color, keep blending this out, keep adding more layers until I am happy with it. That darkest blue is what I was using there. And then I decided to go in with my medium and just add in strokes here and there to really give more of a motion look to this thing, and then blend it out a little bit. You can still see some of those strokes, and that's fine. I just wanted to get more of that motion, more of those colors, and just blend that out. With that done, it was time to move on to the background. Now this first layer of like little hilly things, I'm going to color in with some greens. Again, quickly scribbling some color. I'm using like 2 shades here, nothing fancy at all. And then I just scribble on a lighter shade very quickly, come in with my blending stump, and blend it out. It's really that simple. This looks like it took me maybe an hour to do both pages together, But this really looks like it took me a lot longer, but it was super quick and simple. Now, another great thing about these Leisure Arts pencils is that they're only $12.99. So if you are not sure if you like coloring with colored pencils yet, I really love it, but I know I love it. So I invested in a higher quality set. But if you are not sure if you like it or not, I would suggest buying something like this a little bit cheaper because this is a coloring medium that takes a while to use. I mean, it's not quick like your alcohol markers can be. It's not just laying down a scribble of color here and there. Sometimes you really need to work with it. So make sure that you actually like coloring with colored pencils before you go and invest in a really, really high quality artist set. Now on those mountains in the background, I am using a gray, and then I came in with just a tiny, tiny bit of black to deepen up those shadows. Again, dipping my blending stump in the OMS, and I'm blending out. Now I went ahead and did all that groundwork. Then it was time to do the lighthouse. Now this is where you can have fun with it, but I would suggest kind of matching your lighthouse and carrying those colors over to the boat, which you'll see I do later on. That's just going to help carry this scene totally across the page and not make anything look out of place. I have a thing about red and blue lighthouses, so that's what I'm going for, but you can use whatever colors, anything that speak to you. So I used just one red, I believe, and then I am scribbling on some color, blended it out. I wasn't happy with the depth and the richness I was getting, so I came in with another layer, and I'm going to go ahead and blend that out next. Once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the little base. And like I said, I have a thing about red and blue lighthouses, so I'm bringing in that dark blue again, blending that out. Now, this can look a little funny because the water is right below, but again, I wanted to carry those blues somewhere else other than just the water. So I brought it up into the lighthouse. I'm using a very light blue for those windows. You could use yellow if you wanted to, but I'm going to be putting a lot of yellow up top. I'm going to hand draw in kind of where the light would be coming out from this lighthouse. I'm going with a straight line on the bottom and then with an angled line on the top. You'll see what I mean whenever I bring this over to the next page. But on this left side, I'm going to do the same thing, straight line over, angled line at the top. I'm going to carry that over to the next page here in just a moment, but for now I'm just keeping it on the right page. Here it is where I bring that over, again, straight line, and because that angled line went off the page on the right hand side, I don't need to do a top line on this. It would be straight across in this case. So I've got my two yellows here. Again, I'm turning that colored pencil on its side and just really getting that color down. On the top of the lighthouse, I came back in with blue. I'm doing some grays on the doors and on the little part of the light that would be holding the light, and then on the little top as well. Now this is where it got fun. I got to blend all of that out. I love the way this light turned out. The yellows in this set are really beautiful. So I went ahead and blended that out. I'm not going to blend out the left-hand side right now. I'll do that in just a moment, all at one time. I just wanted to get the right page done first. Now, once I was done with the light, this is where I was like, oh, if a lighthouse is on, it's got to be night, right? Or foggy, but I didn't even want to try to attempt fog on this page. So I decided to try and do a night sky. Now, this was a total experiment, and I would not suggest experimenting in your Bible on a page that you're halfway done with. But do as I say and not as I do. I took the plunge and I did it, and I'm happy to say it worked out. I am scribbling color down right now. I've got about 4 different colors that I'm going to be using here. I've got my black, I've got gray, I've got purple, and I've got a blue. You can also throw in a little bit of yellow if you wanted to. I'm throwing in another shade of purple here. It really is up to you. Just Google pictures of night skies, pick out like 3 or 4 colors, maybe even 5 if you wanted to, and go with that. I started off with the black and I made sure to put lines, like very sketchy lines around the light source and also a little bit around the mountains as well. That way it just kind of blocked it off. Then I came in and I scribbled patches of other colors. Finally, I came back in with that dark gray and that black, and I just went over the entire thing with huge squiggle marks, basically. So the next thing you want to do is take a blending stump. It doesn't matter what size. I'm going with like a medium one here. You just want to make sure you have a good one that's really going to blend colors together. And dip it in your OMS and start blending. This scared me to death, to be honest, but it did work out, and I do love the look of it. I went ahead and just blended and kept blending and kept blending. You can add more layers, more color. You could even come back in with a white gel pen and add in stars or mask kind of everything else off and do flicks of paint if you wanted to. I would just use my gel pen because technically or in reality the masking would be a lot of work. But you could use a white gel pen, you could use some white pigment ink with the star stamp. It really is up to you if you wanted to add stars to this. I didn't, I kept mine plain and simple. You can see as I blend this out though, you're still keeping some of those colors in the background, but at the same time, you can tell it's a night sky. I was so happy that this worked out on my page. Now, once I had the bottom done, it was time for that little triangle at the top there. I am going to quickly blend it out. You can really see the squiggle marks there. One thing I would suggest whenever you're doing this technique, do not have an overly sharp pencil. Even if you have to scribble some color off to get that kind of dull point, you do not want any sharp lines in this. You want everything to be really fluid, that's easy to blend out. And the great thing about this is, even with these dark colors, this black, it is translucent enough to where I can still read the words underneath. It didn't cover them at all, which I was so happy about. I don't like, I've said it many times, I'm not one that's for covering my words, but if you do, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I went ahead and finished that, and with that, this page was done. It was time to move on to the left-hand side. I colored everything on the left-hand side exactly the same. If you want to skip that part, there is going to be a timestamp in the bottom left-hand corner, but I'm going to turn on a little bit of music and quit talking. that the coloring was done, it was time to add my little writing. Now you could leave this as is, but I wanted to go ahead and highlight the verses that are what I journaled about. So I grabbed my micron pen. I am not a hand letterer. I promise you, I just do the best I can. So I am just writing these in all capital letters. If you don't like writing with your own handwriting, there are some beautiful scripted verses in that stamp set. That's what I normally use because that's what I like to use. But in this case, I really wanted to journal with the set in this particular verse. So I went ahead and just dealt with my handwriting. Now I am using a micron pen. This is not Copic or alcohol marker friendly, and it's not OMS friendly. So I went ahead and saved this for the last part, and I'm just making sure when I was doing this page, I just made sure to leave a space in the bottom right hand corner that could accommodate my handwriting. But if you have something like a Copic multiliner, or if you want to use a Sharpie or an alcohol marker or something like that that you know is going to play well with the OMS, you could do this beforehand if you wanted to. I just didn't have that, so I went ahead and did it this way. Once I had my handwriting down, I went ahead and used my micron pen again to kind of just put little parentheses around my verse. That's my way of highlighting those that I am journaling about. So whenever I go back and I open up to this page, I go right to it. I know exactly what I was journaling about, all those great things. And then that was completely it. This page was finished. It was mostly coloring, a little bit of hand doodling, and a little bit of stamping. But without those stamps, I could not have created this scene. These are a few final looks at both pages together and separately, and a little bit closer look at that night sky that came together beautifully. Thank goodness. Also, there's a closer look at the little left side boat. Now that that is all done, I want to thank you guys for watching. On the left side of your screen, there are a few links you can click on. Happy crafting, everyone.